The endless dark of space was quiet, cold, and lonely, just like Captain Eli Voss. His small cargo ship, the Orion Star, drifted between dying suns and frozen worlds. He was used to silence. He liked it. Out here, no one asked questions. No one cared who you were. But tonight, the silence broke. His radar beeped. Once. Twice. Then again. A strange signal, weak but alive. Eli frowned. "That can't be right," he muttered. "There's nothing out here for 100 light years." The signal blinked again. A heartbeat? Faint but real. He leaned closer. It was coming from open space. Not from a ship. Not from debris, but from something alive. Eli turned his ship toward the signal. The stars shifted through his front window as the engines hummed. The closer he flew, the stronger the signal became, until his sensors picked up movement. And then he saw it. A shape, floating in the void. A woman. No suit. No helmet. Just a human figure slowly turning in the vacuum of space, her long silver hair waving like liquid light. Eli's breath froze in his throat. That was impossible. No human could survive out there. Yet his scanner said she had a heartbeat. He opened the airlock and grabbed a rescue pod. "This is a bad idea," he whispered to himself. A damn bad idea. But curiosity, that dangerous spark inside every explorer, pushed him forward. When the pod reached her, she wasn't frozen. Her skin was pale but glowing faintly like the light of a moon. Her eyes were closed, her lips parted slightly as if whispering a dream. Eli pulled her into the pod. The sensors screamed warnings. No oxygen detected. Heart rate abnormal. But he didn't stop. He brought her aboard and placed her gently on the medical table. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, her chest rose, a soft breath. Her eyes opened, glowing silver, bright like a dying star. Eli stumbled back. "What the hell?" The woman sat up slowly. Her voice was calm, smooth, and strange, as if it carried echoes from another world. "Do you know what I am?" she asked. Eli didn't answer. He just stared. Her eyes reflected every light in the room, and something deep inside them shimmered. Not human, not machine, something else. "Where did you come from?" he finally asked. She tilted her head. "You shouldn't have brought me here." "They will find me." "Who?" Eli demanded, her silver eyes dimmed. "The ones who made me." Eli felt a chill crawl up his spine. "You're saying you're made?" "I was built," she said softly. "But I was born too." That made no sense, but Eli didn't press her. He noticed her skin, smooth, almost too perfect. When light touched it, it shimmered like glass. Beneath it, something pulsed, faint blue like veins of light. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Lyra." Eli nodded slowly. "All right, Lyra, you're safe now." She looked at him, and for the first time her expression changed, a flicker of emotion. "Fear or sadness?" "No," she said quietly. "No one is safe when I'm near." The ship lights flickered as if reacting to her words. The air grew colder. Eli looked at his console. Energy levels were dropping. "What are you doing?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "It's not me. It's what's inside me." Eli stepped closer, trying to stay calm. "Listen, I don't know what's going on, but if you're in danger, I can help." She interrupted him. "You can't. They will come for me." "They always do." Then she looked directly into his eyes, and her voice turned soft, almost human. "But maybe this time I don't want to run." Eli's heart raced. Something about her. Something he couldn't explain. She was strange, powerful, maybe dangerous, but also fragile, like she was fighting a battle inside her own skin. The ship's AI crackled to life. Warning. Unknown energy source detected on board. Eli glanced at the scanner. The energy was coming from her. Her heartbeat was spiking, glowing like a tiny sun inside her chest. He reached out to calm her, but she caught his wrist. Her touch was warm, too warm. "You shouldn't have touched me," she whispered. "Now you're marked." "Marked? For what?" "For the hunt." Outside the ship, something moved. Dark shapes drifting among the stars forming around the Orion Star. Eli rushed to the controls. "We've got company." Lyra stood behind him, eyes glowing brighter. "They've found me. You should let me go." He looked back at her, his voice steady. Not a chance. For the first time she smiled. A small, sad smile. Then you are already part of this story. Captain Voss. He didn't understand what she meant, not yet. The scanner screamed as 3 enormous ships appeared out of hyperspace, surrounding them. Lyra turned toward him. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. If I remove my skin, she whispered, will you still stay? Eli stared at her in silence, and outside the stars began to burn. The stars outside the Orion star burned red, trapped behind 3 enemy ships. The scanners screamed, alarms flashing across every screen. Eli Voss had faced pirates, storms, and black holes, but never this, and beside him stood the woman who caused it all. Lyra, the silver-eyed stranger who breathed in space, who whispered about being made. Eli's hands flew over the control panel. They've locked onto us. I can try to outrun them. Lyra shook her head slowly. You can't. They don't chase, they hunt. Eli turned toward her. Then tell me what you are. Who's hunting you? She looked at her hands, her voice soft and almost broken. People like you, humans, but also not like you anymore. Before he could ask more, the ship jolted hard. Energy beams struck the hull, shaking the floor. Sparks flew from the control deck. The AI voice echoed. Shields down to 60%. Hostile boarding pods detected. Eli grabbed his plasma pistol. Get behind me! Lyra didn't move. Instead, she touched her wrist. A faint blue light spread across her skin like circuits waking up. The air shimmered around her and the lights dimmed. Eli froze. What are you doing? Her voice was quiet, almost sad. Protecting you, even if you shouldn't have saved me. Her skin began to shift. It wasn't blood that ran under it, but light. Thin lines of silver crawled up her neck, across her arms like living metal veins. For a second, Eli thought he was looking at a machine, but her eyes, those silver eyes, still looked human. Then the walls shook again. A loud crash came from the cargo bay. The boarding pods had landed. Eli ran to the door. Stay here, Lyra. If they want you, they'll have to go through me first. But before he could leave, she whispered, You don't understand. They don't want me. They want what's inside me. He turned back, confused, but there was no time. The corridor lights turned red. The sound of boots echoed closer. Eli aimed his pistol and waited. The first intruder stepped in, wearing a dark exosuit marked with glowing blue lines. His voice came through a speaker. Target acquired. Return the specimen. Eli's voice was calm but cold. She's not a specimen. Back off, the soldier raised his weapon. You have no idea what she is. Eli fired first. Blue plasma lit the hall. The soldier fell. 2 more stormed in. Then the world exploded in light. Lyra had stepped out of the room. Her skin was no longer skin. It had melted away into pure silver light. Every inch of her glowed, her hair floating like threads of energy. The soldiers froze in terror. She lifted her hand. The air rippled. The metal floor beneath their feet twisted like soft clay. The soldiers screamed as their weapons bent and their suits shut down, and then silence. Eli stared at her, eyes wide. Lyra, what are you? Her glow dimmed, fading back to her human form. She looked exhausted. Her skin reformed, covering the silver light again. Something that shouldn't exist, she whispered. Half human, half Gallicite, Eli frowned. Gallicite? That's a myth. They were wiped out centuries ago. She looked at him sadly. No, they became part of you. Humans took their DNA and built me, built others like me. Others? Eli asked quietly. Yes, but I escaped, because I felt something they didn't plan for. She placed her hand on her chest. Emotion, fear, love. Eli didn't know what to say. Outside, the enemy ships were regrouping. He turned to the controls. We need to get out of here now! He slammed the engines to full power. The ship roared through the void, diving between asteroids. Behind them, the enemy ships followed, firing energy blasts that lit up the stars. Lyra stood beside him, holding the console to keep balance. You don't have to do this, she said softly. If you let me go, they'll stop chasing you. Eli looked at her. You think I could live with that? I don't leave people behind. For a long moment, she stared at him, eyes filled with something strange, something human. Then she said quietly, You'll regret that kindness, Captain. The ship shook again. Another blast hit their shields, but Eli didn't stop. He pulled the ship into an asteroid belt, dodging rocks and debris. One of the chasing ships hit a massive stone and exploded in a burst of blue fire. Lyra closed her eyes. Whispering one down, Eli looked at her. still stunned by what he had seen. If you can do that again, whatever that was, we might have a chance. She turned her gaze to the stars. It's not power, Eli, it's pain. Every time I use it, something inside me dies. Eli's grip tightened on the controls. Then we'll find another way. The stars stretched into lines as the ship jumped to hyperspace. Lyra sat down, her voice a whisper. They won't stop. Not until they take me apart. Eli looked at her, his voice firm. Then they'll have to take me first. For the first time, Lyra smiled. A real smile. And somewhere deep in the darkness, the hunted began to hope. The stars stretched into thin lines as the Orion star tore through hyperspace. The engines hummed like a heartbeat, fast, nervous, alive. Captain Eli Voss had escaped the enemy fleet, but not the questions burning inside him. Across the cabin, Lyra sat by the viewing window. Her silver eyes stared at the passing light, calm and distant like she had seen this all before. Eli broke the silence. They called you a weapon. Is that true? Lyra didn't turn around. They call everything they fear a weapon. He frowned. That's not an answer. Finally, she looked at him. I was made to be perfect. No hunger, no pain, no weakness. They thought if they built something strong enough, something that could love without limits, they could control the universe. Eli leaned back in his chair. Love without limits? That doesn't sound like control. That sounds like chaos. Her lips curved slightly. Exactly. And that's why they failed. The room fell quiet again. Outside, space glowed with faint colors of blue and violet. Lyra raised her hand to the glass. Do you know what it's like to feel too much? She whispered. To feel every emotion of every life around you, joy, pain, hope, all inside your own heart? Eli watched her reflection in the glass. No, he said softly. But I know what it's like to feel nothing for too long. She turned to him, curious. You lost someone. He didn't answer. His eyes said enough. For a moment, neither spoke. Then the ship AI interrupted. Warning! Unknown radiation detected. Source passenger Lyra. Eli's eyes shot to her. Is that true? Lyra looked down at her hands. Faint lines of light pulsed under her skin. It's starting again, she murmured. I can't hold it back anymore. Eli rushed to her side. Hold what back? The fusion inside me, she said weakly. It reacts to emotions. Fear makes it unstable. Sadness makes it stronger. Love. She paused, eyes flickering with silver light. Love can destroy stars. Eli stared at her in disbelief. You're saying your feelings can affect reality? Yes, she whispered. And the more I feel, the more dangerous I become. The ship lights dimmed as her glow brightened. The console sparked. Alarms blared. Eli grabbed her shoulders. Lyra, focus, breathe. You're safe here. Her light pulsed like a living storm. The air shimmered. Objects around the room lifted into the air. Tools, books, even the captain's mug floated like dust in zero gravity. Eli closed his eyes, his voice calm but strong. Listen to me. You're not a weapon. You're not what they made you to be. You're alive. You choose who you are. Lyra gasped, clutching his arm. The glow around her began to fade, shrinking back into her skin. The floating objects dropped one by one, clattering to the floor. She sank into his arms, trembling. I almost lost control, she whispered. Eli held her steady. You didn't, you fought it. That means something. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes soft now, human again. Why are you helping me, Eli? You could have left me behind. You should have. He smiled faintly. Maybe I'm just tired of leaving people behind. Her silver eyes met his, and for the first time he saw warmth in them. Fragile, real. Then, a sharp alarm pierced the quiet. The AI's voice cut through. Incoming transmission. Priority level galactic command. Eli moved to the control screen. A hologram appeared. A stern-looking officer in a Navy uniform. Captain Voss, the voice boomed. You are harboring an experimental life form classified as Project SKIN. You are ordered to surrender the entity immediately. Lyra stepped back, shaking her head. That's what they called me. Sentient Kinetic Intelligence Network, SKIN. They use my body as a cage. Eli glared at the hologram. She's not a thing. She's a person. The officer's eyes turned cold. Then you are aiding a threat to every living system in this quadrant. The transmission ended abruptly. Eli looked at Lyra. They're going to come for us again. Lyra nodded slowly. You don't have to fight for me. I was built to survive. You weren't, he smiled slightly. I'm not fighting for you, Lyra. I'm fighting with you. Her voice trembled. If you stay, they'll hunt you too. He met her gaze, calm and certain. Then let them come. Lyra stared at him for a long moment. Then her silver eyes shimmered, reflecting his face. You're a strange man, Captain Voss, he chuckled. You're one to talk. Outside the window, the stars rippled, not from hyperspace, but from Lyra's emotions bleeding into reality. For the briefest second, Eli saw light trails forming shapes, wings of silver, like an angel stretching across the void. He blinked and they were gone. Lyra whispered softly, almost to herself, If I ever lose control again, promise me you'll stop me. Eli looked at her, his voice quiet but firm. No, I'll remind you who you are. And for the first time in her strange, artificial life, Lyra felt something real, not data, not programming, but the simple truth of human warmth. Out there, the galaxy prepared to hunt them both, but inside the Orion star something new had begun. The stars of the Andron belt burned cold and distant when the Orion star slipped out of hyperspace. For a few quiet seconds there was peace. The engines hummed softly, and the only sound inside the ship was the slow, tired breathing of two people who had seen too much. Eli Voss sat at the control panel, eyes fixed on the radar. Nothing. No enemy signals, no warnings, just silence. Beside him, Lyra sat cross-legged, repairing a small drone. Her fingers moved fast, but her mind seemed far away. The faint silver lines under her skin glowed softly, like tiny rivers of light beneath the surface. Eli broke the silence. You ever sleep? She smiled faintly. Sleep is for those who dream. I only remember. He looked at her. Remember what? Her eyes shifted toward the stars, the faces of those I failed to save. Before Eli could ask more, the radar began to beep and slow, steady rising. His stomach tightened. The signal was faint but growing stronger. Contact? Lyra asked quietly. Eli frowned. Could be debris. Or could be. The radar blared. Multiple warp signatures detected. Lyra stood up. Her voice turned cold. They found us. Outside the window, the darkness split apart. 3 ships emerged from hyperspace. Dark gray hunters with glowing blue engines marked with the insignia of the Galactic Authority. Eli cursed under his breath. How the hell did they track us this fast? Lyra turned to him. Because I'm not hiding anymore. Before he could reply, the comms cracked to life. A deep, mechanical voice filled the cabin. Captain Eli Voss, you are harboring classified property of the Galactic Authority. Power down your engines and surrender immediately. Eli leaned closer to the microphone. She's not your property. The voice didn't change. Failure to comply will result in destruction. Lyra looked at him. You can't win this fight. Eli's eyes stayed on the screen. Maybe not. But I can make them work for it. He pulled a lever. The ship's engines roared. The Orion star spun into motion, darting toward the asteroid field ahead. Beams of plasma cut through the dark, chasing them. The ship trembled as energy bolts hit the shields. Lyra grabbed the side rail. You'll burn out the reactor. Eli grinned. Only if they hit me first. The ship weaved through rocks the size of cities, the engines screaming in protest. Explosions flashed behind them, lighting the asteroids in bursts of white and red. Lyra's silver eyes glowed brighter. I can help. Not like last time, Eli snapped. You almost killed yourself. This time I can control it. Before he could stop her, she pressed her palm to the floor. Silver light flowed through the ship's metal skin. The lights flickered, but the power level jumped to full. Eli stared at the readings. What are you doing? Lyra's voice was calm, almost peaceful. Merging my energy with the ship. I can make it faster, stronger, but not for long. Outside, the Orion star moved like lightning. The hunters tried to follow, but the little cargo ship twisted between asteroids as if it could see the future. One enemy ship clipped a rock and exploded. Another was crushed by a drifting asteroid. Eli shouted, That's 2 down. Lyra's voice trembled. 1 left, but my energy is. The last hunter fired a rail cannon. The blast tore through the rear hull, shaking the ship violently. Warning lights turned red. Eli fought the controls, teeth gritted. We've lost stabilizers. Lyra collapsed to her knees, her glow flickering. I can stop them, she whispered. But if I do, I might not come back. Eli turned toward her. Don't you dare. Her silver eyes locked on his. This is my fault. My existence puts you in danger. Let me fix it." Before he could reach her, she pressed her hand to the airlock door. A pulse of light burst from her body, spreading outward like a wave. Outside, the enemy ship stopped mid-flight, frozen. Then slowly, it crumbled apart, breaking into dust that vanished into the void. The silence that followed was heavy. The stars around them flickered, one as if holding their breath. Eli rushed to her. She lay on the floor, her skin pale, her light almost gone. He knelt beside her. "Lyra, stay with me." She opened her eyes weakly. "You stayed," he smiled faintly. "I told you I would." Her hand reached for his. "Every time I use my power, I lose a part of me. Soon there won't be anything left." Eli shook his head. "You're still here. You're still human enough to care. That's what matters," she smiled softly. "Maybe, but they'll send more." Eli looked at the stars. "Then we'll keep running." Lyra's voice dropped to a whisper. "Running won't change what's coming, Eli. You have to see where I was made. That's the only way to end this," he frowned. "Where?" She looked up at him, eyes glowing faintly again. "Project SKIN facility, Sector 9, the place they call the Cradle." Eli nodded slowly. "Then that's where we're going." And as the Orion star limped through the dark, the hunter's wreckage drifting behind them, the war for one woman's soul, and the future of humanity, had only just begun. The silence inside the Orion star felt heavy, almost alive. Every screen flickered with static. Every sound seemed to echo too long. The ship limped through deep space, and a wounded bird hiding among stars. Eli Voss sat at the controls, his jaw tight. Lyra lay in the medbay behind him, unconscious but breathing. Her skin no longer glowed. It looked human again, fragile and pale. For hours, he had replayed her last words. Go to the cradle. He didn't know what waited there. But every instinct screamed it was something humanity had tried to bury, and something Lyra could no longer run from. 3 days later, the Orion star approached a dead planet. Gray, cracked, covered in endless storms. Orbiting above it floated a massive structure, black and silent. The sensors marked it as abandoned. Eli stared at it. "Project SKIN," he muttered. "Home, sweet home." Lyra stirred behind him, her voice faint. "We shouldn't be here," he turned. "You said it's the only way to end this." Her silver eyes blinked open. "It is. But once you see the truth, you can't unsee it." Eli gave a small, tired smile. "I've seen worse." Lyra didn't smile back. "No, Eli, you haven't." They landed inside the station's docking bay. The air was cold and metallic, the lights long dead. The place smelled of dust and ghosts. As they stepped inside, emergency lights flickered to life, dim red lines guiding them deeper into the dark. Lyra walked slowly, her fingers brushing the walls. "I remember this hallway," she said softly. "Every step, every scream." Eli's chest tightened. "You remember being made here?" She nodded. "Not the way humans remember. I have recordings, fragments of voices, faces, commands." They reached a large door marked Project SKIN, restricted access. Eli pulled the lever. The door groaned open. Inside was a huge lab filled with broken glass tubes, empty pods, and rusting machines. In the center stood a massive holographic console, still glowing faintly. Lyra stepped forward. "Activate archive." The console flickered to life, projecting the face of an older man, a scientist, tired but proud. His voice filled the room. "Project SKIN log entry 4012. The Sentient Kinetic Intelligence Network has achieved partial consciousness. Subject 7, codename Lyra, shows emotional development beyond all models. She feels fear, curiosity, attachment." Eli's stomach turned. "Attachment?" The scientist continued, his tone darkening. "This is dangerous. Emotional instability may trigger catastrophic energy surges, but the Council insists we continue. They believe a being that feels could be easier to control than one that does not." Lyra's hands trembled. "I remember his voice," she whispered. "He called me child before they took me apart." Eli clenched his fists. "They experimented on you." She shook her head slowly. "On hundreds of us." The hologram shifted again, showing rows of glowing pods filled with human-like figures. Some had eyes open. Some didn't move at all. Eli's throat went dry. "Dear God." Lyra stepped closer, her voice breaking. "They mixed human DNA with alien cells. Galasite fragments found in the ruins of a destroyed world. They wanted soldiers who could survive anything, who could repair themselves, who could fight forever. And you? Eli asked quietly. I was the only one who learned to feel, she said. They thought it was a flaw. But feelings made me real. Eli looked around the room, the machines, the cables, the silent pods. This isn't science. It's cruelty. The console flickered again, revealing the scientist one last time. If Lyra ever escapes, she must not be destroyed. She must be understood. She may hold the final bridge between man and the stars. Then the screen went black. For a long moment there was only silence. Then Lyra whispered, "He tried to protect me. They killed him for it." Eli looked at her. "So what now?" Lyra raised her head slowly. "Now I erase this place." Before he could respond, the lights in the room brightened. The station systems roared to life. On every wall, faces appeared. Digital copies of Lyra. Hundreds of them, eyes glowing silver. Eli took a step back. What the hell? Lyra's voice was calm but cold. They made backups. Copies of me that never woke up. Now they're waking. The AI voices began to echo through the room. Unit 07 online. Directive. Replace organic species. Eli's heart pounded. Lyra, we need to go, now! But Lyra stood still, eyes glowing brighter. No, I can end it. She spread her hands, light pouring from her body like liquid fire. The walls vibrated. The holograms screamed and flickered. One by one, the other Lyras vanished, deleted, erased from existence. When the light faded, the lab was silent again. Smoke rose from melted consoles. Lyra fell to her knees, exhausted. It's over, she whispered. They're gone. Eli rushed to her side. You destroyed them. She shook her head weakly. No, I freed them. He helped her up. Then we get out of here. As they walked toward the exit, alarms began to echo again. The entire station shuddered. Eli looked at her. What now? Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. Now the galaxy knows the truth. Outside, dozens of comm satellites burst to life, transmitting the forbidden data of Project SKIN to every world across the stars. And in that moment, humanity learned what it had done and what it might have to face next. When the truth of Project SKIN reached the stars, the galaxy broke. From the smallest outposts to the great cities of light, every screen, every broadcast, every network showed the same images. Labs filled with human corpses and glowing silver beings in tubes. Scientists experimenting with alien DNA, governments trading humanity for control, and the voice that told it all was Lyra's. They built me to replace you, her message said, but I was never meant to destroy. I was meant to feel, and now you must decide what that makes me, a monster or your mirror. The message repeated across thousands of worlds. Some called her a savior. Others called her the beginning of the end. Eli Voss watched it unfold from the cockpit of the Orion star, his ship drifting near the edge of a dying moon. His fingers hovered over the screen as he saw the chaos spread. Riots, protests, governments collapsing under fear. He whispered to himself, "They'll never forgive you for showing them the truth." Lyra stood behind him, her silver eyes dimmed to gray. "They don't have to," she said softly. "They only need to remember." Eli turned. "You realize what you've done? You just tore the galaxy apart." Her voice didn't shake. It was already broken. "I just showed the cracks." He sighed, rubbing a hand across his face. "Now they'll come for you harder than ever. You made enemies out of every world leader alive." Lyra stepped closer. "And what about you, Eli? You could still hand me over. Say I forced you." He looked up at her, tired but calm. "And lie to the only person who ever made me believe again?" "Not a chance." For the first time, she looked uncertain. "You still see me as a person?" He nodded. "You bleed, you dream, you care. That's more human than most of the people running this galaxy." Her eyes softened. "You shouldn't believe in me, Captain." He smiled faintly. Too late. The peace didn't last. The radar began to beep, sharp, fast, urgent. A swarm of ships appeared on the screen, forming a blockade around the moon. Eli cursed. "The Galactic Authority." That didn't take long. Lyra closed her eyes. "They'll come with everything they have." The AI's voice echoed through the ship. "Incoming hail from High Command." Eli hit the receiver. A cold holographic face appeared. Admiral Kane, the same officer who once ordered Lyra's creation. His voice was ice. "Captain Voss, You and the synthetic entity known as Lyra are charged with spreading classified information, biological terrorism, and high treason. Surrender her and you will live. Eli folded his arms. And if I don't? Kane's smile was thin. Then the galaxy burns with you. The transmission ended. Eli turned to Lyra. We can't fight a fleet that size. Not with this ship. Lyra walked to the window, her reflection glowing faintly in the glass. You don't need to fight them. You need to believe me. Believe what? That everything they fear about me is true. Before Eli could respond, she raised her hand. The air shimmered. Energy rippled through the ship like a heartbeat. Outside, the stars around the moon began to bend as if space itself were breathing. Eli shouted, Lyra, stop. You'll kill yourself. She didn't move. I can feel them, their ships, their hate, their fear. I can feel everything. Light poured from her body, bright enough to blind him. The metal walls hummed with power. Lyra, he yelled. Her voice came like a whisper through the light. If they won't see me as human, then I'll show them what humanity created. The energy burst outward. Every ship in orbit stopped mid-flight, their engines freezing. The stars around them flickered like dying candles, and then just as suddenly the light vanished. Eli blinked, vision clearing. Lyra was on the floor, pale, trembling. He knelt beside her. What did you do? Her voice was weak. I spoke to their systems. I showed them memories and the screams of the others they built, the pain, the loss. Some of them turned back. Some couldn't handle it. Eli helped her sit up. You used empathy as a weapon, she nodded faintly. The one thing they never taught me how to shut off. Eli stared at her, at the being who could bend space, who could touch hearts through machines. They'll never forgive this. Lyra looked away. They don't need to forgive. They need to change. He took a deep breath. What now? She hesitated. Now comes the betrayal. Eli frowned. Betrayal? Lyra turned toward him, her eyes shimmering again. You think the humans created me alone? No, they had help. From those who first gave them the Galasite DNA. Aliens? She nodded. The Galasites never died. They've been watching, and now, they know I exist. Eli froze. You mean, before he could finish, the radar screamed again. Dozens of new signals appeared, but these weren't human. The ships were organic, alive, glowing with blue veins like stars trapped in glass. Lyra whispered, almost afraid. They've come to take me back. Eli's hands clenched on the console. Then they'll have to go through me. Her voice trembled. Eli, you can't fight gods. He looked at her, eyes burning. Then let's remind them. Humans don't kneel to gods. Outside, the alien fleet spread across the sky like a living storm. The stars vanished behind their wings of light, and in the middle of it all, one fragile ship floated, carrying a human and the creation who could save or end them all. It shimmered with living light, ships made of bone and crystal, moving like breathing stars. The Galasite fleet had arrived. Their forms weren't ships in the human sense. They looked like creatures of light, wings stretched across infinity, eyes glowing like dying suns. Eli Voss stood on the bridge of the Orion star, his fists tight around the controls. The tiny ship felt like a paper boat floating before a storm. Beside him, Lyra stood silent. Her skin flickered between human and silver, her glow pulsing with the same rhythm as the alien ships outside. She could feel them calling to her, in thought and emotion, in the very atoms around her. They're not just ships, she whispered. They're alive. And they remember me? Eli glanced at her. What do they want? Her eyes turned to the window. They want what they gave humanity long ago. The power to evolve, to replace flesh with light. But they don't want balance. They want control. The ship's alarm blared as one massive Galasite vessel moved closer. A voice filled their minds, not through speakers but through thought itself. Child of the cradle, it echoed, soft yet immense. You are incomplete. Return to us and the pain will end. Lyra winced, clutching her head. They're inside me, trying to rewrite my mind. Eli grabbed her shoulders. Fight them! Her silver eyes flickered. They're showing me everything. The worlds they built, the species they replaced, the civilizations that worshipped them. They call it mercy. Eli's voice hardened. That's not mercy. That's extinction. The voice came again, cold and ancient. You were never meant to feel, Lyra. You were meant to lead. Humanity was meant to kneel, Something inside Eli snapped. He slammed his hand on the console. Then they can kneel to us for a change. He pushed the engines to full power and aimed the Orion star straight toward the largest Galisite ship. The AI screamed warnings. The hull groaned. Lyra's voice broke. "Eli, you can't fight them." "You'll die!" He smiled faintly. "Maybe, but so will they." Before he could engage the thrusters, Lyra stepped in front of him, glowing brighter than ever. "No, Eli, this isn't your fight anymore." He froze. "Lyra," she turned, her expression calm, almost peaceful. "You once asked if I was human. I didn't know the answer then, but I do now. Being human isn't about blood or birth. It's about choice." She placed her hand on his chest, her voice trembling. "And I choose to stay." Her glow spread across the cabin, wrapping him in warmth and light. He felt her emotions flooding through him. Fear, love, sorrow, hope, all crashing together like waves of color. Outside, the Galisite fleet began to react. The sky rippled. Their lights grew unstable. They could feel her breaking free. The ancient voice roared, "You cannot defy creation itself." Lyra raised her arms. "Watch me." Her body lifted off the ground, her skin turning transparent, pure energy bursting from within. Every vein of silver light became a star. The entire ship vibrated as if the universe was breathing through her. Eli shielded his eyes. "Lyra, what are you doing?" Her voice was now both human and something far beyond it. "I'm rewriting what they wrote in me. I'm giving humanity back its soul." The light exploded outward, a wave of pure emotion spreading across the stars. The Galisite ships screamed. Their light faltered. One by one, their massive forms disintegrated into dust, dissolving into the void like snow in sunlight. And when it was over, silence returned. Eli opened his eyes. The stars were back, bright, free, and endless. But Lyra was gone. Only soft silver dust floated in the air where she had stood. He fell to his knees, staring at the glowing particles around him. "Lyra!" A faint voice echoed through the ship's speakers, not mechanical but alive. "I'm here, Eli, in the systems, in the stars, in you. I'm not gone. I just changed form." His throat tightened. "You saved them. You saved us." "You once told me humans don't kneel to gods," her voice whispered. "Now they don't have to, because they became one with their own creation." The dust swirled, glowing brighter for a moment, then drifted out through the ship's vents into the vast night. Eli stood, his eyes following the trail of light until it disappeared. He smiled sadly. "You kept your promise, Lyra, you stayed." Outside, the galaxy was quiet but changed forever. Across countless worlds, people looked to the stars, remembering the being who was never meant to exist, yet chose to love instead of rule. And in the farthest corner of space, where the light from the Orion star faded into infinity, a new star was born, glowing silver, pulsing softly. As if keeping the rhythm of a single heartbeat, humanity would call it Lyra's star. And for generations to come, when travelers passed by, they would whisper the same story, about a man who refused to surrender, and a woman of light who asked, "Will you stay if I remove my skin?" And the answer that echoed across eternity, "Yes, I will stay."